Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 10, Text 14. So it's written on the board here, the verse. Is it in Tamil writing? Okay. Sarvam etadritang manye yanmang vadasi keshava nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidur devana danavaha. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Yeah, go and read the Prabhupada. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows what is the truth. He is the truth. Everything emanates from Him, as he's just stated. Ahang sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvang pravartate. Everything comes from me. So He knows everything about everything. And He is teaching Arjuna to understand everything. Earlier in Bhagavad-gita, Krishna has said, Jnanam te hamsa vijnanam idang vakshyami aseshataha yajgyatva neha bhuyo najgyatavyam avashishyate. I will now teach you knowledge of the material and the spiritual, by knowing which nothing further shall remain to be known. So Krishna is the best qualified person to teach about everything. We cannot know everything to the extent that Krishna knows. He is all-powerful, and He can know everything. He can know everything. He does know everything in detail. We cannot know everything in detail. For instance, I suppose that you all took some food this morning. I don't think anyone's fasting. But how everything is being digested in your stomach, you don't know. Yeah, the doctor or the biologist might be able to tell you, but he doesn't know exactly how each molecule of acid is interacting with the idli or whatever you took. But Krishna knows. And we don't really need to know. The doctor should know, but not everyone needs to know. In human society there are various departments of knowledge, because everyone can't know everything. So we need doctors and meteorologists, astrologers, astronomers. We need all different departments of knowledge. But Krishna knows everything in all detail, because He's everywhere, He's inside everything, so He can see everything in minute detail. And He's also above everything, so He sees the big picture also. So by Krishna's mercy, by understanding Bhagavad-gita, we can know everything, but not to the extent that Krishna knows, because Krishna is supreme and we are very tiny. But we can understand in principle. For instance, question of how has this world come into being? There are many scientists who have different theories about this. I read in some magazine some years ago that among astrophysicists there are about 2,000 theories of how this world has come into being. So actually I'm a better astrophysicist than any of them, without going to university and without looking through any telescope. We just take one line from Bhagavad-gita, that's all. Aham sarvasya prabhavaha. Everything, Krishna says, is generated from me. So we know the universe comes from Krishna. And more detail is given elsewhere in Shastra that is described in Srimad Bhagavatam and in summary in the Brahma Samhita. It's that Yah Karanana Vajale Bhajati. What's that? No, the other one it says the other verse about Mahavishnu. Adhara Shakti Mavale. That's in that verse, but the other one says that anyway, there are so many verses in Brahma Samhita that says that Loma Kupa Vilaja Jagadandana Taha. So all the universes, they emanate in seed form from the body of Mahavishnu. So we don't really need to understand or even try to understand in great detail all those things, although we may do for intellectual time pass, you can say. And we don't really need to know it in detail how the idlis we take get digested. Someone may be a doctor, and they may tell you, if you have ajirna, indigestion, that you should adjust your diet, something like this. But the really important knowledge that we need to understand from Bhagavad-gita is that Krishna is supreme and we are subordinate to him. And we are suffering in this material world. And the cause of that suffering is because we want to act independently from Krishna. And we think that we can know everything independently from Krishna. We're very proud of our educational institution. There's so many colleges in Tamil Nadu, mostly engineering colleges. But none of them teach about this supreme engineer. They will praise some bridge, very well-made bridge. Actually, there are some well-made bridges in India. That Howrah Bridge, built by the British, that has more people crossing it daily than any other bridge in the world, so we're told. So more than 100 years old and still very strong and solid. And yesterday, somewhere between Nalgonda and Guntur, we crossed one very long bridge that was built recently, that railway line, between Nalgonda. So it is a worthy achievement, is it not? You can praise the engineer or the architect who designed that. Well, what about the whole universe? That's a much better engineer who made that. We give so much praise to an engineer, okay, but what about the engineer of the whole universe, which is much more complex than a bridge? And he gave the intelligence to the engineer so he could make the bridge also. Increasingly in Kali Yuga, people are becoming atheists. And they will claim that, no, we're doing everything. We don't need any God. We can build bridges without any God. We don't need all this God knowledge. But they have no answers to the really important question of life. The really important thing is not to build a bridge from one side of a river to another, but to cross from this material world and go to the spiritual world. People are on one side of the bridge. They don't know what the purpose of life is. They go to the other side of the bridge. They still don't know what the purpose of life is. What did they benefit? On one side of the bridge, their only interest is ahara nidra bhaya maitun, eating, sleeping, mating and defending. They go to the other side and they're just in the same animal consciousness. So Krishna gives us the knowledge of Bhagavad-gita that is a bridge by which we can cross out of this material world. But as long as we're proud and we're thinking that, well, we don't need all this, then we can never acquire this knowledge. People are very proud of what they consider to be their advanced knowledge. We're building such good bridges and we're making dams. But you may do that, but still we have to suffer birth, death, old age and disease. So it is a great illusion to think that human society is progressing because we are building big bridges. Real progress is to understand that we are not meant to stay in this material world, that our real home is in the spiritual world with Krishna. But people are foolish, and they think that getting more and more of the wrong kind of knowledge is advancement. If someone knows many things about the material world, people think he's very advanced. But if they don't know who we are, who is God, and what is the nature of this material world, how to get out of this material world, go to the spiritual world, what is the use of so much education? There is a story, the boatman and the scholar, that before the big bridge was built, you had to go across the river with the help of a boatman. Now the boatman doesn't have a job anymore, so he joined the Naxalites. He could have joined the Hare Krishna movement, but he joined the Naxalites instead. What happened? He's got some other information about the boatman. So there was a very great scholar, and he saw the boatman, so he called him Karanadha Agachatu. And the boatman looked at him, and then he said in local language, "You don't know Sanskrit? You've wasted 25% of your life." So he got in the boat, and they were rowing over the river, and they saw the scholar suddenly looked in the sky and said, "Oh, there's a very rare bird." And the boatman said, "Well, I see them every day." Said, "You don't know what the scholars in the university said? It's very rare." The boatman said, "Well, I see them every day." Said, "You don't know what the people teach in the university. You've wasted 50% of your life." So they're rowing, it's a very big river. The scholar pointed in the sky and said, "Oh, that's a very interesting cloud formation." He asked the boatman, "Have you studied meteorology?" Boatman said, "I never heard that big word before, but I've seen that kind of cloud before, and it means there's a big storm coming up." So within a short time there was a big storm, and they were still only halfway across the river, and the boat collapsed. And the boatman, he asked the scholar, "Do you know how to swim?" He said, "No." So you've wasted 100% of your life. There's another boatman story that one young boy left the village. And 20 years later he came back with a big long beard. And he came back and the village people said, "Where have you been all this time?" He said, "I've been with a yogi studying in the Himalayas." So he said, "Well, can you do any chamatkar, any miracles?" Said, "Yeah." So he said, "Can you walk over the river?" Said, "Yeah." So he walked over the river, and all the people were astonished. And one man said, "Yeah, he did all that, and all that is worth 25 paisa." He studied for 20 years with the yogi, and he managed to walk over the river. It's worth 25 paisa. Because whenever I want to cross the river, I pay the boatman 25 paisa. So people are studying things, and they become very proud. Someone becomes a Sanskrit scholar, someone becomes a great yogi, someone becomes a great scientist, and they think, "I know so much." But without knowing Krishna, everything is useless. Without knowing who we are and what is our real duty in life, everything is useless. Another thing we should know is that any knowledge that we have, even the most advanced so-called knowledge, without knowing Krishna, it's only an arrangement of Maya. Krishna's illusory potency is called Maya. By the arrangement of Maya, we think that we know things, but what we know, it's all messed up. For instance, we can learn that Jayalalitha is the chief minister of Tamil Nadu. So this is an important thing to know if you're in Tamil Nadu. But it's of no actual significance because life is short. Previously there were different kings. In what's now called Tamil Nadu, there were Chola kings, Pandya kings, Pallavan kings. Sometimes the Muslims were ruling. They've all come and gone. And we shall also come and go. And Jayalalitha, we have nothing in particular for her or against her, but she's come and gone many times as chief minister, and she'll go again. So this material knowledge, it is overestimated. If you're living in Tamil Nadu, then all right, you should know who's the chief minister. And in the modern world, it's considered that people should know all different general knowledge, some scientific knowledge. But this is all materialistic knowledge or knowledge of this material world is overestimated. We are told, for instance, that E equals mc squared. What does that mean? Matter is equal to mass, mass is equal to energy. What is it? Mass and acceleration squared. So speed of light. Yeah. So Einstein understands it. No one else understands it. Maybe it's true. If anyone understands, Krishna understands. But so we think Einstein's very great because he knows this. But it's all concerned with the material world. And even by the power of Maya, even very intelligent people, what they think is right is often wrong. Just like that, there are 2,000 theories among astrophysicists about the origin of the universe. To be an astrophysicist, you have to be very intelligent, very educated. They all disagree with each other. That means that one of their theories might be right. That means, but 1,999 of them are wrong. And whatever theory they say is right, in a few years, they find out with more speculation that it's wrong. So we have learned by hearing Krishna's instructions through parampara, as Srila Prabhupada mentions here, through Srila Prabhupada, that this material knowledge, at best, it's overestimated. And many times what people, they think is right is wrong. And it's all learning about the wrong thing anyway. The real thing we need to know is that this body is temporary, but I am eternal Atma. Our nature, our intrinsic nature is Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, conscious, and blissful. But we are suffering in this material world. Why? How can we rectify this position? This is the really important thing that we need to know. And this so-called material advancement, it's all a waste of time. It's endeavoring for the wrong thing. Just like, for instance, if you're in a prison and every day you're beaten with a whip, and you think, well, I have to see the whip every day, so let me make some nice design for the handle so it looks nicer. This is foolishness. So in material existence, we are whipped by birth, death, old age and disease. So if we think, let me enjoy myself in this situation, it's foolishness. Where is the enjoyment? Kim sukham martya dhaminam. Where is the happiness in a place where we're simply meant to die again and again? So in Krishna consciousness, we have faith in Vedic knowledge. Even in the Vedic system, there is all the best knowledge of the material world. Just like now the scientists are telling us that you can go on holiday to Mars. They didn't send anyone to Mars yet, but you can put $1 billion and make a reservation. Years ago, the Pan Am airline company was taking reservations. You had to put down, $500,000 as a payment. So later on they'll take you to the moon. But instead the Pan Am company went to the moon. There's no Pan Am company and no one got a holiday on the moon. So instead of wasting time with these frivolities, we should think how to go to the spiritual world. Now, as far as knowledge of space is concerned, that's described in the Vedic literature. If you want to calculate what time will the sun rise tomorrow morning in Salem, you can use modern scientific systems based on observation of the movements of the planets. Or you can use the ancient Vedic system. That means that they had all this knowledge previously in the past. People say that astrology is just some hocus pocus. But that's based on deep knowledge of the universe, of cosmology, which includes a knowledge of all advanced mathematics. So even materially, all knowledge required is Vedic knowledge. But the Vedic knowledge itself teaches us that even though all knowledge of the material world may be acquired by Vedic system or any other system, the real thing we need to know is that we do not belong in this world of suffering of birth and death. So we don't waste our time studying superfluous things. We study what we need to know most of all. That is the knowledge that Krishna gives in Bhagavad-gita. In modern education, people are so proud, but because of this, they think they've learned so much and discovered so much that they don't give the proper respect to Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad-gita. But we don't waste time with all these things. We're not going to study cosmology in great detail. We just accept what Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita. Prabhasmi shashi suryayoho. Krishna says, I am the light from the sun and the moon. That is a representation of Krishna. That comes from Krishna. That's enough. That's what we need. What more do we need to know? How will it help us to know what's going on the moon? People, they want to go to the moon, to Mars, but even if you go, you have to suffer birth, death, old age and disease. It's all in the material world. Beyond this material world is the spiritual world. Parastasmatu bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. Beyond this world, where everything is created and destroyed again and again, there is the spiritual world where everything exists eternally. So people think that, we have modern scientific knowledge and this Bhagavad-gita, that's just something not very intelligent. But actually it is not intelligent to ignore the knowledge that Krishna gives in Bhagavad-gita. Krishna states in Bhagavad-gita that we all have the problem of janma mrityu, jara vyadhi, birth, death, old age and disease. It is foolish to ignore these reality that we all have to suffer this. That's why we say all the scientists, even Einstein, fools. All the politicians, movie stars, teachers, all fools. If they don't take cognizance of this point that we are all suffering in this material world, the purpose of life is to find a solution to that suffering. That solution is given by Krishna. Manmana bhavabhadbhakto madhyaji mang namaskaru mame vaishasi satyang te pratijane priyosime. You can just check. So if you don't have this Bhagavad-gita as it is in your home, you should certainly get it, read it, and live by it. There's so many things that people are doing in their lives, but without applying this knowledge of Bhagavad-gita in our life, it's all simply a waste of time. Of course, it requires faith to accept this. But if you study Bhagavad-gita as it is, then you must come to the same conclusion as Arjuna, that everything Krishna says is right. Krishna is not cheating us in Bhagavad-gita. He's saving us from the cheating of everybody else. Hare Krishna. Now there's only 2 minutes. If anyone has any question, they could ask that. Sandeha. Again, it's Sanskrit. They say that There's no. What's his question?
Hare Rama, they're calling Hare Rama, sometimes they're calling Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So whether you chant Hare Rama, chant Hare Krishna, chant. Very nice that you like to chant. Please chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Or if you're accustomed, you can chant Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Same thing. In our sampradaya, we are taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to chant with Hare Krishna first. But anyway, if you chant japa continuously, it comes to the same thing anyway.